They say winning ain't everything. Well, we don't have them type conversations over here, man. Had that conversation with the losers. We trying to win at everything we do. Even in the loss, we don't see defeat. We see a lesson learned. Straight up. Look, I came into this world in 1978. The doc looked me in my face and knew I was something great. 45, 42 Prescott, that's where I'm from. Grew up in the slums around dope dealers and bums. As humble as I was, I adapted to my habitat. In my own lane though, far from where they crashing at. Dumb bar graduate, the game I done mastered it. Served in the Navy, look, y'all don't know the half of it. Pops passed in '01, moms passed last year. I know they up in heaven smiling down, crying mad tears, cause they son making it. No telling where I'm taking it. My city been cursed, but I feel that I'm breaking it. Coached at Wayne High in 15 in one state. Seen the fork in the road and went straight. I know what I'm worth, I'm OG King Kirk. Brooklyn Nets gaming crew legend, let's work.
Hey, this is OG King Kirk, your host of the OG2CENTS podcast. I want to thank each and every one of you who make this show what it is each and every week. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on any major streaming platforms, make sure you subscribe and give us a review. Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. Helps us out a lot. Links for all available descriptions. Links for all available streaming platforms will be in the description. Let's continue to stand up for any forms of social injustice and racism. And this episode is brought to you by Zenni Blocks. Make sure to armor your eyes with Zenni Blocks Virtual Clear Blue Blockers. It's important to protect your eyes from the harmful blue light from your digital screen, so you'll have less eye strain, and that makes for better sleep and performance. Check them out at zenni.com/gaming or follow them at Zenni Gaming on Twitter and Instagram. This episode is another supporter spotlight series. This is our second one. The first episode was with Laquan Mack. This episode is with Made in India. You know, a very up and coming figure in the NBA 2K community. He's been a guest speaker on the 2K Zone, ESGN, Court Vision, and Black Frank White Live. His specialty is creating content on stats and analytics within the NBA 2K League. He plays power forward on Firesticks Gaming, and his aspirations is to be a player in the league and bring the exposure to the South Asian gaming community. For a living, he day trades equities and options on the stock market. Aside from work in 2K, he serves as a program manager for South Asian youth retreats across the U.S. I don't like to do too much talking. So with further ado, Made in India, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the kind words, man. I'm glad to be here and excited to have a conversation.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, man. I appreciate you hitting me up. A lot of times people don't know, really is just to catch me at the right time. I mean, I check my DMs as much as possible.
Of course.
But you caught me at the right time. And you came with a concept. And I really want to talk about that before we get into this podcast, is that, a lot of people, they come with a yo or a hey Kurt, I got a question, but then no question. Like,
right,
so,
right.
You came with a concept and what you want to do. And I'll tell you, everybody, he put out there that he wanted to have a conversation with me and wanted to get some intel. And I said, you know what? I really like the way you put it. And do you mind if we, make a show out of it? I mean, because I think he had some questions that he wanted to ask me. And I thought it was dope because a lot of people don't ask me the questions. I mean, for whatever reason it is. I mean, yeah, a lot of people that I know, or like I meet, and they want to know about the league and different things like that, they will. But like not a lot of up and coming people will come across and ask the questions the way you put them out there. So let's get into it and let everybody know who you are and, tell us your story.
Absolutely. And I'm glad I caught you in a good time. I made sure, you're in a good mood. So I go, my gamer tag is Made in India. A quick 30-second on why I chose that name. I was born in India. And so I take a lot of pride in that. I moved to the US when I was maybe 9, 10 years old. And I haven't had a chance to go back. And when I was thinking about my gamer tag, I wanted something that identified me and what I wanted to do when I get into the league one day. And I remember thinking, you watch the World Cup, you watch curling, you watch soccer, USA basketball, and things like that. And especially in soccer, or also known as football, as soon as someone scores a goal, they hold up where the country logo is and they kiss it and they're proud of it. And I've never really had a chance to do that, right? I'm not that athletic. I played flag football, but then I stopped being great at it, so I refereed instead. So I've never exactly had the opportunity to represent my country. And I figured, hey, with the 2K League, this is what I want to do, and here's how I can do it. And as corny as the gamer tag may sound, that's the reasoning behind it. So there's a little bit of that. And yeah, so I moved here from India when I was about 10 years old. I pursued, and I lived in Atlanta a little bit after that. And I went to school at University of Houston pursuing a marketing degree. And then I came back home to Atlanta. Atlanta is where I grew up. Atlanta is where I made mistakes. Atlanta is where I had a great time of my life. So this is home. This is home for sure. And that's kind of pretty much it. I've done a lot of different things. We'll talk about them, but I've always liked to do unconventional things because I felt like the conventional route just wasn't my calling. And that's what I struggled with growing up. And again, we'll get into details as we talk more, but that's a little about me, where I come from, who I am, and what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned about the trading.
Yeah.
How did you get into trading stock?
So my parents, who are, of course, immigrants, they came to the U.S., I believe it was 1997. And they worked hard, just like any other parent, not just immigrant parent, but just like any other parent. They tried to do the best for their child. And they were always afraid of the stock market, even when I brought it up, because all you hear in the news is the doom, the crash, the 2008, the COVID crash, and the dot-com bubble and all those things. And of course, my parents, they were hard workers, but they didn't have the knowledge and information to make their money make them money, right? And so that's what intrigued me. And I was like, okay, I need to find a way to retire so that I'm gonna, so that I can not only take care of myself, but so that I can take care of my parents and also the future family that I may have. And that's when I YouTubed what are stocks, when to buy stocks. And there are two types of traders. There's fundamentals and technicals. I look at the charts, what's happening, it tells a story, and that's how I trade. But yeah, the first stock I ever bought was Apple. And I remember it was around $525. I only bought one share because I was in college. And I stared at that screen for 9:30 to 4 o'clock. And every time it would go down $1, I would freak out. I'm like, oh my God, it just fell $1. So that's how I got started in investing into stocks. And then fast forward about, quite some time. 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I started working for a mattress firm. And I sold mattresses for a living. I did that for 4 years. I loved sales. I loved the team that I worked with and things like that. But it was a tough grind because there was no work-life balance, right? So when quote unquote normal people are off on the weekends, July 4th, Thanksgiving, Black Fridays and things like that, I'm working, right? I'm working because that's the busiest time of day. And if you're trying to support your family and, save up for retirement and things like that, that's what you got to do. But after that, I, had enough of that. And finally I grew the courage to step out of that because I was getting too comfortable. I was good at it and I was making money, but I didn't feel like I was making a difference. And I just felt like I wasn't doing much with my life. But anyway, then I got into trading stocks. And again, same thing. How do you day trade? What is a day trader? What are some things to use as a day trader? So everything that I've learned has been through the internet and has been through YouTube and various articles. CNBC was my bedtime story. So that's how I kind of got started. That's why I got started, because I believe so many individuals out there, and I'm sure viewers of yours and people that are listening can understand, if only our parents and grandparents were educated about what the stock market is and how it works, even if you just put money in and don't look at it, I mean, phenomenal growth. And you see it now with Twitter, right? Everyone's a day trader. Everyone's investing. Everyone's posting their gains and things like that. And I think it's nice because that's how you can save for retirement. Money doesn't make you happy, but it gives you opportunities to do whatever it is that you want to do. And I wanted to unlock that freedom for myself, my parents, and my future family. So that's how I got started, and that's why I got started.
Got you. You know, a lot of, I mean, I was the same way. And I mean, you said made some valid points. I mean, about, you know, families being able to pass down potentially wealth and knowing and learning the stock market. And yeah, you hear about it all the time. You see it at the ticker, a lot in scrolling channels. And if you happen to hit on the right channel, you see it. But a lot of people don't know. And I see people now talking about it and just sharing knowledge and opening up a lot of avenues for different people. I think it's great. I've been seeing the Twitter. Are you in the chat with Fame?
Yeah, and shout out to that man for creating that platform, because when I tried to do it, it didn't work. But what he's done, along with a couple of other individuals, has been phenomenal. So yes, it's been a pleasure, and it's exciting to see other people want to learn. Right? Doesn't matter how old you are. I think it's great to learn, and it's exciting. But yes, I am in the chat room with Famous. Yes.
Good. Program manager for South Asian youth retreats.
Yes.
What all does that entail?
So growing up, something that I'm a Muslim. I'm a Shia Imami Nizari Smiley Muslim, long title, but basically we do a lot of youth camps, and we do a lot of camps for our, believe it or not, as soon as you're 6 months old till you're 99 or you're passing away, right? And there's a program for everybody. There's early childhood development. And there are other programs. I'm not, I don't want to go into names and things like that, but basically I fell in love with it because that's the community that I grew up with. Those are the people that I enjoyed my teenage years with, because we always gave back, but we always gave back together. So I'll give you an example. One of the camps that we do is for ages 13 through 17. And that's where we teach them about other cultures and other Muslims around the world, right? Because if you grew up in the US, all you know is Muslims in the United States. Yeah, you may hear about people in Canada, in Africa, in India, in Pakistan, and things like that, but you never really even in China, you never really heard about them. You never heard about their culture and things like that. Even outside being a Muslim, there's so many different things that you want to learn about. And that's what this program is designed to do, is designed to teach you different cultures and what else is out there, so that when you get to college, you're not blindsided by what else the world has to offer, right? There are many different reasons we do it, but that's one of them. That's one of the reasons I love. So we'll learn the waltz. We'll learn different types of salsa dances and all these other things, because we want to show you what else is out there besides your little circle that you're in. We want you to expand your horizon. So there's that. What I currently run is a program that's for college students. And the reason I love it is because it's more religion focused. And we found that, hey, when people go to college, they stop being as connected to their faith, right? And important questions such as, hey, my best friend is Christian. Hey, the girl that I like is a Hindu person. Is this okay? Is this not okay? Hey, what's my history? What does the Quran say about XYZ? What does my faith say? All these things. And the best way I can recap all of this is we don't like to give people answers as in, hey, this is what it is, because we don't really know the answers, but we can give you the tools and resources as to how you can find about it in your journey, right? Because depending on what lens you're putting on, your answer can be different. So for example, when me and you are doing this podcast, from my lens, I'm getting something different out of it, and I'm doing it for different things. From your lens, as an individual, you're getting something else out of it, and your reason for doing it is different. From the Nets organization, it's a little bit different, right? From a financial perspective, it's a little different reason. So it's like, hey, it's not a black and white. It depends on why you're asking and how you're looking for the answer. And so that's a little bit about that. I love, and I've tweeted about this before, I love being surrounded by positive people who want to give back. Doesn't necessarily matter the cause. It's just nice to be surrounded by kind humans that are trying to give back to the community. And that's thankfully what I've found within my culture and my religion growing up. But thankfully, that's what I've found so far in the 2K community, because I promise you, it was not like that when I first got here. It was not.
Now getting to that.
Yeah.
When did you start playing 2K?
So I played video games from the age of God knows when. I think maybe 13. 2004, Michael Vick on the Madden cover. Loved it. I mean, growing up in Atlanta, that was the guy. I felt like I was the king of everything, right? Call a little bootleg, run around, throw it deep. It was nice. But
Right.
I fell in love with 2K maybe around 2010, 2011 when I moved to Texas. It was a bit of a tough move because I moved to a small town called Beaumont, and I went from big buildings to big factories. I left my friends here, my family, my partner, and everyone else, and it was a tough move. And so 2K and video games were my way to decompress. It was my forget everything, and this was just I get to be a kid and not worry about anything, right? And it took a lot of weight off my shoulders, and I got to put it aside and just focus on the game and have a good time. So that's when I started playing. And I never played my player mode. It was just quick games with my friends and things like that. I started playing my player mode last year. And oddly enough, the reason I wanted to try it was because a certain hashtag was trending on Twitter. It was Fire Ronnie 2K. And I was like, this game can't be that bad that this is literally trending on Twitter. So I went ahead and I bought the game and I played it. And again, I made a 7-3 center because I wanted to be dominant. Shaquille O'Neal is a big, one of my favorite basketball players. And so that's how I kind of got started. And then I Googled and I learned more about the 2K League. And I literally YouTubed, because I YouTube everything in life, how to make the 2K League. And I believe it was Dimes whose video popped up and he said, oh yeah, you got to compete in these WRs, MPBA, and you got to compete with the best or else you won't get recognized. And I was like, what in the world is he talking about? So I made a Twitter account. I grew the courage to call myself Made in India, and I followed WR. I followed MPBA. I followed everyone that knew what they were talking about and how to check mark, because I didn't. And I was SpongeBob. I was just soaking everything in as much as I could. And that's how I got started. I started with some draft leagues here and there. And that's when I faced some individuals that are very toxic. I know that word is used so often now, but through those adventures, I found wonderful people that I still communicate with. And I learned, a lot about, and I'll share a quick story with you. B More, who may not be the B More that everyone knows, but B More DM'd me and said, hey, you're a center. I saw your tweet. Why don't you come play with us? And so it was me, B More, Landis, Billy, and another couple of individuals I'm forgetting. B More was the point guard and I was a center. And B More didn't like the way I was setting screens. And so he said, India, just go low block. I said, okay. I didn't know what low block meant. So I'm over here trying to figure out, and this is not great for my draft stock that I don't have anyway, but I was like, man, I got no idea what low block means, right? So thankfully, because of matchups being needed to change, he called timeout, and hand to God, I went ahead and YouTube, what is low block in basketball? Clicked images because the links were too many, and I finally realized what low block was. I was like, perfect. And so I went ahead and stood low block. And he's like, hey, I'm on the right side. You got to go on the left low block. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. My bad. I forgot about that. I had no idea. So I went ahead and learned that. And then he goes and tells me, hey, set an off ball for the right hash. What's a right hash? You know what I mean? So I'm sitting here looking at the virtual basketball court, and I've played basketball in the sense of, hey, I played intramurals and things like that. Man, we're running around trying to score. I don't know what a low block is. I don't know what a hash is. I never played competitively in that sense. So again, it's halftime. Thank the Lord, because I went ahead and said, what is hash? What is hash in basketball? Found out, boom, set an off ball screen. So that was my adventure from where I started, how little I knew, to the wonderful human beings I've met on this journey. And I still meet till this day. And here's where I am now. But that's pretty much my journey. And man, I always say, I don't know what I don't know. And people always laugh at that, but that's honestly why I love talking to fellas such as you and other phenomenal individuals I've met. Is there's so much information out there for you to soak in that'll help you along your journey, that it's been a great learning experience for me thus far. And I'm sure there's so much more I have yet to learn. I look forward to that.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because I first will give you credit for, I know what it's like being in a party and how the height of everything matters.
Oh,
So you neglecting not to ask, and hurrying up and researching, that helped you, and then it helped the party, because as soon as you would have said, "What's low block?"
Oh,
They'd be like, "Oh man, he don't know what
Blocked.
the fuck low," like, they
Blocked.
so now you helped yourself out. I mean, and that's to be commended. I mean, and really, it's like what I used to tell my daughter all the time. Like, with modern technology, I don't want to hear it. I don't know. Like,
Absolutely.
you have resources that will give you the answer just like that. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
kudos to you.
Thank you. And yeah, I agree. Modern technology, I mean, there's a way for you to find the answer for sure. 100%, So I agree. And thank
I'll
you.
tell you
I'm
something. I
glad you
mean,
see it that way. We'll see what Be More and Landis think when they hear the story, but I'm glad you see it that way.
I'm
He
gonna
might
tell
block
you.
me on Twitter. I don't know.
And while we're sharing story, I'll tell you this, and I'm gonna talk about it in some content that I'm cooking up. Is that I remember when I first started the OG2CENTS trend, and a lot of I would tweet stuff, and then people would be like, "You subtweeting me? Like, are you like her that?" Now, remember, Andy, I'm old. Like, I don't know what the hell he talking about. Like,
No way.
sub. Like, what do you mean subtweeting you? Like, I had no clue. And then I finally picked it up. Like, but I mean, initially, first of all, I mean, I think people think too high of themselves for you're on a platform with millions, billions of people to think that you're getting singled out. Like, I mean, but
For sure.
that's my funny story with that. And like I said, I'm gonna go into detail about that, because there was a lot of things I didn't know initially with Twitter when I first got on here. I really was crazy and off the chain way before the OG King CURT Twitter. So
That story of yours reminds me. A cousin of mine was texting me. This is when I was like 13. Okay. Him and I are texting back and forth, and he spells out BRB. I respond, and I'm like, "Dang, like, what'd you eat?" And he responds back saying BRB. I'm like, "Why are you typing out that you're burping? Like, why does this even matter?" And then he tells me what BRB means, and I'm like, "Wow, like, this is how out of touch I am with the acronyms of the world and everything like that." So, again, not helping my knowledge as the analytics guy with these silly stories, but yes, there's so many things where it's like pop culture or the simple things. I didn't know what it meant. I had to Google it up. And especially my nephews and nieces nowadays, they're like, "Oh yeah, this food slaps." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, are you serious?" Anyway, we're getting off topic, but yes.
Remember, I told you, casual conversation. I mean, we got bullet points, but I mean, we could talk about whatever.
It's amazing, the acronyms and what else is out there. I learned something new. I think, what is it, Kizzy? I don't even know what that means. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say. I have no idea, so I apologize. Cut it out. But that's apparently a thing.
It's just them, putting some more slang on cap.
Yeah, is that like a slangy way of saying slang word of cap? By the way, I explained to my girlfriend what cap was, and she just died laughing. She loved it.
And kind of speaking on, you said something about it a few seconds ago about just stats and analytics.
Yes.
It's funny because most don't know, like, I'm a big stats and analytics guy originally. Like, that was the ingredient that I brought to the MPBA. Like, me and LT were running separate leagues. Like, we was involved in separate leagues before we came together. And the league that I was in, the big thing about it was they kept stats, and most leagues didn't. So that was something that I always liked, because I always got tired of hearing players talk about, I'm this, I'm that, whatever, but we don't have no proof. So one thing about it, once you put the stats out, the numbers don't lie. So I've always been heavy in the stats and analytics. I mean, obviously my roles have changed throughout the years, but initially when I first came into the 2K community, that was my biggest contribution to the MPBA. Yeah. So also with the creating content, the journalistic side and stuff like that, but stats and analytics. How did you get into it, and in your infatuation with numbers?
I've never been an organized person, right? Whether it's in the things that I pursue or my life or my closet, I've never been an organized person. And so growing up, In college, I had to find a way to, pay the bills and things like that. So I sold things on eBay. I sold iPhone 4 cases. I sold, I don't know if you remember this. There was Axe came out with a bunch of flavors, and chocolate was one of them. And people were in love with it. And so I had this vendor that would give it to me wholesale, and I would resell it and all that stuff. So I had to keep track of it. So I created an Excel sheet. I made a bunch of columns, put some fonts and things like that on there. And then I Googled how to add in Excel. And that's how I learned about sum and all that stuff. And then that's when it was beautiful for me to see in plain eyesight, here's what your profits are, here's what your cost is, here's your shipping costs, and here's how much eBay's taken out of it, and yada, 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 here's your take home, right? And I think that's the moment I fell in love with it, because there's so much happening. There's shipping, there's buying, there's selling, there's reviews and everything else. But it's like, hey, what matters is the numbers. Is this even a profitable business? And that's when I kind of became in love with it. And that's how I just started seeing the magic of numbers. Now, granted, whether it's, being dyslexic or whatever the case may be, I fumble with numbers. So I have to find a way to make it make sense to me, and I have to find a way to simplify it. And I think that's where I have a love and hate relationship with numbers. But if you haven't seen the movie Moneyball, that's one of my favorite movies when it comes to sports. I believe the Red Sox adopted that same strategy from Oakland, and they won the World Series within the first couple of years that they adopted that. And numbers tell you things that you don't see, and numbers tell you things to back up what you do see, right? You've made a few trades this season. Hornets have made a few trades. The Blazers have made a few trades. Best believe they didn't go off of the Twitter handle or the game film or whatever else. They backed up whatever they wanted to do by the numbers. And I think numbers gives you that edge, whether it's, sports, whether it's cooking, where numbers matters. Numbers is just such a huge part of everything that we do that I wanted to fall in love with it and be an expert in it. And I still, do my best to. And that's actually how I got my first foot into the community, if you will, is because everyone was doing this content. ESGN was putting out all this stuff about film and players. I don't know anybody. I have no idea what I can do. And then one day I was like, okay, they're playing on remote servers. Let me see, or, they're playing remotely. Let me see if being a host actually matters or doesn't. So then I went ahead and created an Excel sheet, and I went ahead and kind of put a little sneak peek out there. I tagged Dave from the 2K Zone, and thankfully Dave thought it was cool, and he DM'd me and he said, hey man, once you're done with this, would you like for me to put it on my showcase or my Twitter account? I'll give you the credit. And I said, absolutely. And I was a little nervous because I didn't want to mess this up. And so that's how I got started. And then, of course, I'm not sure if you heard, but there was a little bit of a hesitation and controversy about if Chalk deserved to be on the Rookie of the Year nomination list. I said, okay, cool. Let's dive into the numbers. And then that's what I did. I think that was the second time I dove into the numbers. And, Chalk had phenomenal assists and all those other things that we can dive into later. But numbers and analytics give you a spinal cord, and they become your support system, and they back up what you're saying. And to me, I'm a proof kind of guy. And it's something I've struggled with when it comes to faith and trust issues and all those things in life. And it's like, hey, what's the proof? Show me the proof so that when I go to bat for what I believe in, I know what I'm talking about, because I don't ever want to mislead anybody. Even when people ask me like, hey, what stock should I buy? What should I do? This and that. I always give them numbers like, hey, here's what I believe will happen. Here's where I'm going to, take the risk off. And here's how much money I believe I will lose, because, hey, I want you to have the worst case scenario. And I want you to have all the information you can before you make a trade so that you're not blindsided. And that's the one thing I can't stand in life, is being blindsided.
All right.
But yeah, numbers is a side chick for me, if you will.
I get it. Thoughts at the moment for the 2K community and the NBA 2K League.
Tell me, what do you mean? I'm sorry.
Say your thoughts on the 2K community and 2K league at the moment?
The 2K community, in terms of the players, I don't think realize how special they have it right now. I don't think they realize how lucky they are that this community is small and that at the moment it's easy to get into these leagues and compete at a high level. As the league grows and we branch out of just being on Twitter, it's going to get tougher and tougher. And these acts of declining interviews and behaving certain type of way and having certain type of attitudes and putting other people down just because a wonderful mock draft didn't have you drafted, whatever it may seem. I hope people understand what they have and they don't take it for granted. But there's some phenomenal people that are finally stepping up their game in terms of content, draft prospects. I mean, we've never seen something like this, and I love it. What I'm interested to see is that come late February and March, so much of this content and marketing stuff is going to be saturated. That'll be really key to see who differentiates each other, because there's only 62 spots, if you will, and some of those are probably going to go retain players. So those are my thoughts on the community. I'm seeing more positivity now. Maybe it's because I'm being surrounded by positive-minded people, so I love that. In terms of the league, I'm interested to see how we grow in season 4 and season 5. Right? There's been talks about international players. There have been talks about having a gamer who happens to be female on a 2K League team. So I'm interested to see, because these are some gray area topics. They're pros and cons to everything. And I'm interested to see how the league officially handles these narratives, because you don't want someone else to handle the narrative because they may not have the same objective as you do. But I love it. I love where the league is going. I look forward to seeing what season 4 is going to be like in terms of the schedule, whether it's a hybrid one, remote play, in person, whatever. And everything that the league is doing to get as many people into the draft pool so that they have a chance to showcase why they should get drafted, I think is great. I mean, we just saw Celtics drop, more eligible tournaments and things like that. So I love everything the league is doing so far. There are some questionable things, but I don't know why something is happening, and I'll never speak to anything if I don't know why, right? But so far, I love it. I look forward to seeing what other teams join come season 5. But so far, I'm a fan of it, and let's see how the growth goes. I was a little sad to see no expansion teams, I will say. I think I spent the day when I realized there were no expansion teams. I went ahead and got me some ice cream to eat my feelings. But, we're in it for the long haul, and, being able to see that, hey, there are other opportunities, even there if there are no expansion teams, was great to see. So that's kind of pretty much my recap on that.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel you on that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I made the tweet not too long ago about everyone. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, you need to get one ASAP, because there's a lot of esports opportunities that's like every other day, or at least 2 or 3 times a week, I see esports opportunities, and people are like, you can specialize in something and maybe want to put all that energy into to one thing, but you're missing out on a lot of other opportunities that can create experience for one, and then resume build for 2. So I mean, I try to spread as much knowledge, because most of my transactions or interactions come from LinkedIn. Like, it's not Twitter.
Interesting.
So so that's why I tell people that. I mean, a lot. I talk to people daily on LinkedIn all the time. People I've never met or anything like that. So it's important.
And if it's okay, I'm going to take a step back here and talk about the pro-am community. Look, I get it. 10s and X's, or X's and S's, they're at war. I get it, right? People can't get a hold of consoles and things like that. I said this on ESGN, so let me go ahead and vomit my rant here. You got to find a way to get a console. I understand they're expensive. Let me not be, ignorant to the fact that, hey, money's tight. It's been a tough year. I understand that. But if you're trying to make the league, and if you're trying to get paid at the minimum $30,000 for playing video games for 6 months. I believe you can find a way to spend a little bit more money and get a console that works with the dream that you're chasing, right? I hate the excuses of I have an S, so I can't play draft 10s. You know how many drops there have been since November 11th when the console was released? It's almost been 2 months, right? You can always find a way to compete in these lobbies and things like that. And I know I see the same people. Like, again, I'm not a scout, but I see the same people hooping. I see the same people posting clips. I see the same people dropping Twitch links. And it's like, it is so dead right now that it is easy to come up in the draft stock rankings. It is easy to showcase your talent and play in the uppers, the sewers, the Harlems, the Venice, and whatever else I see out there. The YMCA that, yeah. I mean, man, I wake up at 7 a.m. to, do my stock stuff and stuff, and I see Duck, we need 2 for PS5. They need bodies. And if you had a PS5, you have a chance to showcase who you are, right? And that's my thoughts on Pro-Am. And again, there were these rumors about the Combine, possibly some players not playing in the Combine. I don't get it. Why in the world would you not want to play in the Combine, right? Like, I don't care if you're an ant season or if you're a crazy or if you're a 3rd round, 4th round pick. Why would you not want to play? I get it. You don't want to hurt your draft stock, but what do you think that says about your work ethic? What do you think that says about if you'll show up to practice, if you're playing a 1-13 team this upcoming week, So to me, Kurt, it'll blow my mind if there are individuals who don't compete in the Combine, and I would be disappointed because there are people that would love to be in your position, that would love to be in your situation. And I hope the Combine is open to everybody in terms of whoever's draft eligible. I hope it's not invitational within the draft eligibility, but it blows my mind when I hear this narrative of, oh, the Combine doesn't matter. Oh, this doesn't matter. Again, I'm not a coach. I'm not a scout. I'm not a GM. But to me, I want to see how you play if you're not with your guys and gals on the virtual court. I want to see how you communicate with random people that you've never played with when 3 whites go in for the opponent and you shoot a heavy, and how frustrated the team gets. I want to see if you can hold your own and lead a team, because you may not have the rapport with the other 4 people on the court, right? And I think these are the things that people can showcase. These are the things that players can show that, hey, I can do this. I belong, right? And also, it's not, when you load up, Crown said this, and I agree with him, when you load up, you're not playing for yourself. You're playing for the guys and gals next to you, the 4 other players. They're trying to work their stock draft up. You know what I mean? And plus, who doesn't like playing an opponent and having their draft stock drop a little bit? It's kind of fun. It's competitive. We're competitive people. That's why we play the game. So I know I went on a little rant there, but I was writing down my notes here, and I realized I didn't talk about the Combine and draft 10s, and that's something that just blows my mind.
No, that's all good. I mean, it's one of those things where anything is everything. Like, I mean, and the one thing like the excuses that turns me off and burns me up at the same time, because you won't find anybody that you look up to that has made it because of making excuses. Like, it was the pursuit was relentless.
Yeah.
Like, even for myself, even, for Famous, a lot of people that I know and came up through the ropes with, no, it was never about excuse. You never hear. We don't even allow that type of talk. Like, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, and that's a whole thing that I want to talk about, like, in the future, is just, it's just like the old school mentality versus the new school mentality.
Yeah.
Because it is some differences that really stunts the growth and progress for a lot of people who have potential, whether that be a player, coach, GM, or whatever. And I really just try to help, because for me, I've just always been about taking advantage of opportunities and maximizing it, and at all costs never letting it go. And if I had to, I'd want it to be on my terms. So
Absolutely. And I
that's
think that old school and new school, and I say we because I fall victim to this as well, is we love the instant gratification. We love calling an Uber and having it be here in 15 minutes. We love Uber Eats because we don't want to grab ingredients and groceries and cook it, and we don't want to spend an hour or two doing that, right? My girlfriend gets mad at me all the time. She's like, "You won't even learn how to cook." So it's like we love that instant gratification of add to cart, purchase, boom, it's here the next day, Amazon Prime, right?
I'll tell you what, India, you've been dropping some jewels now. Like you really,
I'm trying. I got my notes, man. I told you I was nervous. I got my notes.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but you are.
I appreciate it. And
nice.
One jewel that you dropped, and I apologize, I have no idea how long this is supposed to be. I did want to bring this up. One jewel that you dropped that you may not know about is you went ahead and tweeted something, or you replied on a tweet and you said, there's so many guys out there that are trying to wear too many hats instead of perfecting one. That wasn't your actual wording, but that was pretty much what you were saying.
I know what you're saying.
And I know that wasn't a subtweet to me because I would have hit you up in the DMs. No, I'm playing. So I know that wasn't directly at me, but it was about me, right? Because I make fun of myself and I'm like, look, I'm a Swiss Army knife that isn't well sharpened. I can play the game at a mediocre level. I can do analytics at a slightly above average level. I can watch film. I can, build a team. I can be a leader and I can bring the camaraderie and things like that. But there's nothing that I'm really an expert at. There's nothing that's like, yeah, if you want this done, the best guy to do it is India. You know what I mean? And that kind of spoke to me because I was like, okay, if I'm trying to make the league, there's got to be something that I do work towards really well, and that's how I plan on focusing my energy and sharpening those blades a little bit, because at the moment I am jack of all trades and master of none. Right. So that's something that you mentioned jewels, and I know we talked about subtweets in the past conversation, but that's something that was neat to see is like, yeah, there are individuals such as myself that are trying to do it all, but I gotta focus in on what it is that I'm trying to showcase and do it well, because I can't be a player, GM, scout, commentator, and analytics guy all at once. I can't. Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you this.
That was important for me.
I like how you defined it though. It doesn't have to be directed towards you, but it can be about you. And I think that approach for me, like, I mean, if anybody thinks, even though I'm older, like I'm one of the elder statesmen in the community, not only, I mean, by the whole stature of building the community out, but in age too. And if you think that I haven't heard things that made me feel a certain type of way, you're mistaken. Like, but the difference is when I hear things that I know somebody might not be talking about me, but I self-reflect.
Yeah.
And see, like, you know what, I need to change some things. And a lot of times with the OG2CENTS and different things that I drop, sometimes people don't realize that I'm talking to myself too. Like, I'm not just talking to everybody.
Projecting, we all do it.
You have to do that. I mean, and to stay on the track that you want to stay on. And I've even said that, but I think what happens for me, some people know me from 5-6 years ago. Some people only know me from 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, a month ago, and they don't know that. So like, that's why I have to I feel like I constantly reiterate some of my old school habits and ways and how I deal with stuff, so they have an understanding, so they don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Sometimes you gotta look in the mirror. I hear you
all the time. Now at this point, before we get to OG Wants to Know, like I said in the beginning, India came to me and wanted to know some things, and we're gonna kind of flip it around, and he's gonna become the interviewer, and I'm gonna be the interviewee. And hopefully through my responses, I can help some people out there that want to know some of the answers to these questions.
Let's get it. Who are you drafting? No, I'm joking. But I mess with. We did a BFW live, and I'd be like, "So famous? Who are you taking at 7? Who's it gonna be? What's up?" So yeah, I wanted to kind of get to know, because you've been in shoes that I would hope to one day be in, right? You've had experiences in the league that I believe many people, such as myself, Vegas Landis, Paul, Champ, and so many other people that haven't come out of the gates yet, wanting to be a part of the community, want to know. So to me, there are a few questions I had. One of them was pretty much, when you took on the role as a GM, as a coach, and whatever other hats you've worn, but especially for the 2K League, what are the toughest challenges that you didn't expect to face, where you were like, hey, I knew I'd have to deal with players. I knew I'd have to deal with this and that. But man, these things blindsided me. What was that for you?
Man, it's like, obviously I'm not from New York. You know, I'm from Ohio. So I'm moving to a city that I've never lived in, never really fully experienced. So not only am I trying to make sure that other players are being accommodated, I have to learn the city and learn how to navigate through it myself. And that was like one of the toughest challenges. And not only am me liking Wavy after watching him play and interviewing him, but he was from New York. And I knew that he would be able to assist in different things like that.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, like, so in my thought process, and then also Nate had spent time in New York. Shockey was from Jersey. So it was like building not only from a cultural sense, but building that environment where people already knew what to do, where things were at, how to get to certain places. And that was something that I was really I was worried about. I mean, me myself personally is one thing, but having to manage a team and help them get familiar in a place that they've never been, that was real that was the real scary challenge for me. And it's funny, I like the question because nobody had never asked me that. Like, and when I thought about it, I was like, man, I used to be terrified. Like,
Really?
for the most part, when I say terrified, it's like going somewhere where, just like when I was in the military, we get off the boat, we over in Italy somewhere, and I have no idea where nothing's at. Like, no, and how I don't know how I'm gonna get there or anything. Like, it was the same type feeling, but I was in the US. So just thinking about managing that from a team perspective, it was challenging at first, but it eased its way out.
I was going to ask, were there any hiccups once you drafted certain players and things like that? Did you have any hiccups that were a part of that fear, or did it all kind of smooth itself out? Because you said it all worked out, but were there any hiccups?
Oh, when you say hiccups, what you mean?
Like you just like you talked about, hey, not knowing the area and not knowing the city and things like that. Did you think you were going to a restaurant, but you ended up going somewhere else?
I mean, never with the team. Like by myself.
Okay.
I'd be jumping on trains, jumping off trains, like all the time. Like, you'll think you're going one way, and then before you know it, you're going the wrong way.
Man, so I've lived in Atlanta so many years, and I've ridden MARTA, and I still have no idea when that thing says westbound or Gold Line. I'm like, okay, but Gold Line that way or Gold Line this way? Like, where am I going?
Hey, but I'm pretty good now, though. Every now and then I'll slip up, but I'm pretty good now.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. You mentioned how you have to relocate, and this one I wasn't able to do much homework on because this is a personal thing to you. But how did you kind of manage the work-life balance between your family and your close friends, your coworkers, or whatever that may be? How did you kind of balance the work-life balance, especially when you have to relocate to a completely different city, and especially when you have to work odd hours to perfect the craft of being a GM and being a head coach? And let's not give YL too much credit. His head's already big enough. But how did you kind of deal with that balance?
I'll tell you this, and I've always been horrible at that balance. Like, I've always been the type, like, I put my all into everything that I'm doing. So like at that moment, I was working and everything, But then, and when I started doing the NPBA, I nosedived into it. I mean, I meant if I wasn't working or wasn't going to any of my kids' events, it was NPBA. Like that was my life. So like when I got to the league, it was that's GC, and that's GC, and that's GC. And I'll get a credit for the helping me with the balance is Joshua Prush, who oversees Nets GC. You know, and he used to tell me all the time, like, Kurt, like, you gotta relax. Like, you know, it's other things. Like, yeah, this is important. Yes, we got common goals that we're trying to achieve and everything like that. But, you know, go take a break, go have a drink, go do that. Like, you know, he was, and that type of reinsurance for somebody that you're, I say working with, because Brooklyn is like one big old family. Like, I mean, that's been my only experience, no matter what department I've dealt with or anything. It's just if it's well disguised, then so be it. But that's been the experience for me, and he helped a lot in that. And so I really owe a lot of that to him. And thankful for social media and different things of that nature, because a lot of people, you got to think in, even for you, like a lot of people they don't know what the 2K league is. Like they didn't know to the extent of 2K being the way that it is now. And so I had to do a lot of explaining and different things like that for them to even understand. But once they understood it, you know, they was behind me 100%. So Joshua Prush and social media, and then, you know, I don't have a lot. My brother, like, is really my best friend, like, back home. And, you know, I talk to him a lot, see him a lot. We actually live in the same building. So, and I'll probably be hooking up with him sometime later anyway. But, but yeah, just Joshua Press and social media and my brother.
Do you think you found it? You think you found the work-life balance? You've been in this business for a couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, I say now, I'm going to tell you this. I mean, you know, we talked about Big Head earlier, but I mean, obviously having YL now, that you know, that shrinks a lot of things. I mean, so you know, we play off each other really well, and he's just now, you know, coming back from vacation, so he gets his break time. I get my break time and stuff like that. So it has become easier, but you know, we haven't won. We have things that we really want to do, and no different than anybody else. But so that you're always in the pursuit of that. I mean, it's always on your mind with each and everything you do, whether that's from sponsorships and competitive, with, you know, with being with the team, and, you know, anything and everything that entails Nets GC, and we just trying to do it at the highest level that we can do it. So, you know, things are always going to be on your mind, but now I know when to lay down and take a nap.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I think you spoke to how tough it can be when you're trying to manage 1 and 2, and when you're in love with the league, you dive in. That's all you do. That's all you focus on, to the point where you don't realize your mental, physical, and emotional health is taking a drain, to where in the future it kind of takes a toll on you. So I'm glad you've kind of found that balance. Speaking of balance, you've made a lot of trades this offseason. You've made quite a few moves, and I'm sure you've almost made quite a few moves that you didn't end up making. What's this offseason kind of been like? What's the behind the scenes of, all we see is a big old flyer that says, you know, that boy Shots goes here, these picks are traded and all that stuff. But give us a little bit of a glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes of, not necessarily why those exact trades were made, but just your thought process, and walk us a little bit through that, because making a change is, you don't, you know, give us some insight on that.
You know, I'll tell you this, you always want to look to get better, and however that may be, you know. And for us, we've seen some progress. I mean, we wouldn't call it major, but it was progress. And if you got a chance to upgrade, then you look forward to doing that. Now, in saying that, a lot of people on the outside looking in, you know, I've seen numerous comments and different things like that where, you know, people assuming things or whatever. believe it or not, it's just like you can have employees that come in to work. Some employees want to be there, some don't. And that doesn't make them bad employees.
Yeah.
It just may not be the place that they want to be. And so in fact to that, we made some moves and allowed us to bring some players in that want to be here. And in terms, you know, it was like a wish list for us because actually, and people may think it's I'm just saying this, but we got the two players that we were looking to go out and get. I mean, and that doesn't always happen. I mean, you can have your mindset on one thing, and a lot of different things happen that doesn't allow the situation that you want. But for us, our prime objective was to get shots, and he wanted to play center. We made the move to make it happen, and then we wanted Jen too. I mean, and that ended up happening. So it's been I'd call our off season a success, and a win for us. And now how we build on it going forward is really the cherry on top. But right now we're satisfied, and hopefully for me, and it's funny. I was just thinking about today when I was talking to one of my friends is that it's a lot of things that people look at the league and think about, but then there's some things that they don't think about. Like really players who have came to SGC, and even if they have left, the majority of them our retention rate is high. Like a lot of players still stay in the league, even if they go to other teams. And even with me, I try to be, first of all, as an SGC, that's the primary objective is for us to get better. But I don't send players uh, initially to places that they may not want to go. Now, I mean, will that happen sometimes? Yes. But for me, I try to make it a win-win. And, for the most part, for some people, it's paid off. And, like we made the move with Lav and picking him up, and then he becomes a key piece to a trade, and now he's still in the league. And regardless of what people think, like I build actual friendships with a lot of the players who play for me. Some tighter than others, of course, but
Yeah.
I still care about these players as people. And that's one of the things that I always keep I always keep that in the forefront, and I think that's important because a lot of this at the end of the day, when I'm, maybe gone and retired or whatever, or some of these players are retired or doing other things, these are moments that we can look back on and talk about and hopefully laugh about and they tell their kids about.
Would it be safe to say that these trades were also backed by numbers?
Definitely, definitely. I'd want to say at any point in time, Shots and Jan could probably easily been looked at in their course of their careers as a top 5 player at their position.
Yeah,
so
of course. Yeah, I mean, I know. Yeah, no, I hear you, and I agree with that. You weren't born a coach, obviously, right? So, what kind of? I know you have the MPBA route, so you can touch on that a little bit, but I kind of want to know like what helped you along the way to pursue the league job, but kind of like what experiences helped you be a good coach, right? Because when you get the job, great, congratulations. The tougher road is ahead, right? When it comes to dealing with players, when it comes to dealing with nonsense that happens on and off the court, right? So what kind of experiences did you have, and what helped you pursue the league and be a coach?
Well, I started coaching I started earlier now. I was still in the military though, but I didn't really get into coaching until the early 2000s. Started coaching AAU, started coaching middle school, and then eventually by 2008 I was coaching high school. Coached girls. Then as my daughter got older, um, I I left her high school because I was like, I'll let her grow up, and I didn't want to be coach to her whole career. And moved over and started coaching boys at the high school level. And so from the basketball perspective, I've been coaching physically for over 20 years. The managerial side of it was I was a manager at a group home, and different things like that. So it was kind of a combination of the two, at least from an optical side of it, and actually experience that. I had experience in managing, experience in coaching, and different things like that. Now, funny, when you start talking about analytics and different things like that, that's where the NPBA come in. I mean, so it was a combination of those three things that basically played a role. And I want to tell a lot of players or people that's aspiring to do different things, you actually, when you sit down and you really look at your life and whatever experiences you have, you probably fit the criteria for a lot of things that you can put on your resume, but you don't always tend to think about it. Like with the NPBA, I was doing the newspaper articles. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that used to be one of the most hottest popular things amongst the 2K community. If you made the cover of the NPBA magazine, or if you made the actual newspaper. So at terms, I was already creating content like years ago, but I didn't look at it like that. I just looked at what I was doing was for the sake of the league. But when you start breaking down it, that's content creation. But I was an old head, so I didn't look at it like that. I just looked at I was doing something to help boost the league and stuff like that. But I say that to say that a lot of things that you're doing is giving you experience that you can use and that you can actually put down on paper if you're doing it correctly. And so it was a combination of that, and it just and just to be honest, making those relationships and just doing the right thing. I mean, for me, I used to say this all the time. When I came into the 2K community, I was me. I wasn't trying to fake. I wasn't faking to be nobody. I wasn't, I ain't never been a tough guy. I ain't none of that. So I just was myself. So it wasn't hard to be myself. And some people have to look at these and we didn't even know a league was going to even exist. Yeah. So I think hopefully that it's teaching moments where, don't think about just the now. Think about, down the road, because a lot of you could be hurting yourself potentially for bigger opportunities that might come your way.
Couldn't agree more. What's that saying? It's who you know that'll get you the interview, but what you know that'll get you the job. Sometimes the 2K community calls it buddy, but they don't realize that it's networking. It's how the world works. And we could sit here and chat another hour about buddy, but we won't dive into that.
Well, I just to cap that off, get away, and just to cap it off, it's if you were gonna do something, would you want to do something with a friend that you've known 5 years or a stranger that you just met?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing.
And it's who are you gonna go to war with, right? I mean, I can't speak to it, which, by the way, thank you for your service, but you've been in these situations where you need to have a brother and sister that has your back, right? In the darkest times and in the most unknown times that you could face.
A funny story about that, though.
What's up?
I was in the Navy. Obviously, I report to the ship. I'm there for probably a month. We end up having a fire drill. So the fire drill bust out. Everybody's getting dressed. Everybody's putting on FFE, whole nine. I'm sitting there trying to get help putting my stuff on or whatever. But I want to tell you, I used to be a smart ass now. I wasn't when I said, at 20 years old, at 18 to 20, I was not an OG. And that's why I really work with these kids. But I said, man, why we gotta put on all this shit? Why does everybody have to do it? And Chief came up to me and said, Curtis, when we out on the water, there is no fire department. Everybody has to play a role in putting the fire out. And I said, that makes sense. And really, I kind of done live my life like that. Everybody needs everybody at some point.
Absolutely.
I mean, so that's really my hopes and ambitions for the community is to realize that we all need each other at the end of the day.
I couldn't agree more. And that's I appreciate you sharing those insights. Obviously, those are valuable things coming from you. One last one before I wrap up my part of it. There's so many of individuals out there such as me that are now getting into the league or hearing about the league, creating content, wanting to be a scout, a GM, a coach, yada, yada, yada. What advice, if there was one solid advice that they could run with, would you give them as they pursue being a part of the 2K League in one way or another? What subtweet are you going to give them?
It's you gotta be able to control your emotions. Like, I mean, literally, like, because everybody looks at me as super positive, but I'm human. I have some dislikes about a lot of things. I can say I can use a lot of choice words for some things, but when you want to work for one of the top companies in the world, they need to know that they can trust your emotions and what you might say or what you might do. And I think a lot of people get a real big misconception. Like you can't compare yourself to somebody who's making a company millions of dollars or billions of dollars to somebody who's not bringing them in anything.
Yeah.
So you can't do and speak as they might at times. So I think being able to control your emotions and have some composure is important because I'm linked to a lot of things. And so it's not just about me. And I think the one thing where everybody feels as though if you're not being real, if you're not speaking blunt or open and honest, which is that's BS. Like, I mean, no, but I always say you can be as real as can be, but first of all, I mean, if you find that most people are in a position to say and do whatever they want, they definitely don't have to worry about who's cashing their checks. Like, I mean, so, but for the rest of the people, the majority of the people in the world, you gotta, you gotta, it's points in time, it's a place and time for everything. So control your emotions, composure, and stick to your plan. Like, don't let nobody knock you off your plan. Stick to it. Because I trust. A lot of people laughed at me, man. Like I was 35, bro. I was 35 when I started doing all this. So you can imagine a lot of the kickback I used to get by sitting on the couch and I'm buying game. I started buying gaming monitors, started doing all the trust. I mean, I took a lot of flack, but it's a different story now.
It is. And we won't dive into it, but I hear you. And that's the struggle that I have with my in real lives. So far they've been supportive, but I like what you said about controlling your emotions, because there's times where these hot topics are happening about gamers who happen to be female getting a draft spot and international players and all these other things going on. I just want to get on Twitter fingers but it's like, hey, let me take a step back. What's a better way for me to communicate my point where I can have a debate? I love debates, right? So I agree 100%. A key lesson that where I feel like the dial turned and I became a little bit more mature was, don't just speak the first thing that comes to mind. Filter it. Think about it. What is it really that you want to say? So I think that's solid, and I'm glad you brought that up.
I will tell you this though, Indy. I think you, Joe Vegas, even Phil Reed. Like I think y'all doing a good job of when you do it on a show.
Yeah,
you have a chance to explain yourself. Like, you have a chance for people to see your emotions behind what you're saying.
right.
When you tweet it, oh man, it can go in 50 million directions.
Absolutely. It's open to interpretation at that point.
Exactly. So I think y'all going the right route in everything, man. So I
appreciate
like I say, stick to the plan. And the one thing about it is, like, it's always important for people to actually get to know you, because a lot of people see you on Twitter. I done had some wild meetings with people where they'll think you one way, that you're not, that's not you.
Yeah.
So I think having those conversations and and even sometimes for people that are in the league, like, you got to answer your DMs. You have to conversate and talk with people for them to really know where you stand. Even sometimes if it's just short conversation, because it's easy for people to look at one thing you do or a couple of things you do, and that's what they label you as, and that's not right. But sometimes you have to be able to speak for yourself and let people know. So yeah.
Couldn't agree more. I will hand it off to you because there's questions that I can ask, and we'll be here all night. And I don't know how much gig space you have in your podcast, so I'll hand it back to you.
No, that's fine. At this moment, this OG wants to know rapid fire questions.
Oh, yeah.
Answer open and honestly as possible. Biggest influence?
My parents.
What motivates you?
The selfish feeling that I matter in this world.
Like that. That's different. Favorite video game of all time?
Madden 2004. Michael Vick. What up?
Favorite sports team?
Whew. Hurts me to say, but Atlanta Falcons.
Favorite athlete?
Shaquille O'Neal.
Favorite actor and actress?
Jim Carrey and Queen Latifah. Love the personality, love the vibes, and they'd be phenomenal uncle and aunts.
Got you. Celebrity crush?
You promise not to judge me. All right. Keep in
mind.
No
judgment zone. No judgment
Keep in
zone.
mind, I was a little Indian kid that came to the States, and I fell in love with Britney Spears.
For some reason, I knew you was about to say that.
It was either her or Avril Lavigne. My friends make fun of me because I love Avril Lavigne as well, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't sad when she got married. But anyway, Britney Spears, before the madness, you best believe I woke up on Saturday, 8 o'clock, so I could watch the toxic video that she had on the airplane. We won't get into it. Anyway, that's my answer. Final, Britney Spears.
Favorite movie of all time? John
Q.
Okay. Favorite esports organization?
Did I say Nets GC? Did I say that already? I love what the Raptors do. I love it. They've clearly built a winning culture and the content and the full house thing. And I mean, you got the fastest internet in the world. All jokes aside, Raptors.
Where do you want to be in the next 5 years?
In a position where I'm proud of myself. I know that's a big vague, but I would hope to be proud of where I am with my family, financially, emotionally, physically, and of course, career-wise as well. So if that's what the league, that's the goal, but just proud of where I am in 5 years.
Okay. What advice would you give to anyone looking to get into trading stocks?
It is not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? So if you're in it for the long haul, that's the number one thing. You got to know that, hey, people go to college to get a degree and they spend 4 years. You're not going to learn this in a few months, right? That's my monologue on it. But YouTube, what are stocks? Investopedia is a great thing. And I could vomit links here, but DM me. And of course, we're going to talk about this next, but DM me. I will respond to your DM with links where you can learn, and whatever questions you have, I will answer. Just do your homework and then come. But yeah, so.
Yeah, and as you said,
it's not get rich quick. I promise it's not. You know, people only share the positives. People only share their 6-figure incomes, and no one shares the red days. Promise you, I've had red days, and it's broken my heart many times.
Got you. And, you know, how can people follow you?
Absolutely. So I'm on Twitter. That's pretty much the main social media that I use for the 2K League, and that is Made, MADEXINX, India, INDIA. So that's Made X in X India on Twitter. And that's the best way to reach me. Follow what I'm doing in terms of content, what I'm up to. Might have a fun project that'll drop towards the end of January that I'll embarrass myself with. So definitely check that out.
Well, good, man. I want to tell you, had a great time. This really enjoyed talking and getting to learn more about you. I'm sure we'll be in touch now. Once you bless the podcast, and it's a relationship until you want to end it.
Absolutely. It's been a blessing towards me, and I appreciate this. This is a wonderful opportunity for me to not just to get to know you, but also to have a little bit of exposure on me and what I'm about. So I appreciate you taking the time and the resources to have this conversation with me.
No problem. I want to thank everybody, whether you're listening to this on all major streaming platforms or YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow the OG2CENTS podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow myself on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as well at OG King CURT. Also subscribe to my other YouTube channel, OG King CURT, where I'll be doing reactions, OG thoughts, and more. So just make sure you subscribe to that channel. Content will be coming out sometime at the end of the month. Shout out to my team, Schroeder Visuals, Side Evermore, and Box Graphics for everything that they do. You can catch me on EsportsXTRA every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 7 to 8 o'clock. That's with host Larry Ridley, Kelly Wells Brinkley, Antonio Williams, Durban Worrell, and producer extraordinaire Kevin Mamuzet. Like I said, that's every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 7 to 8 o'clock, where we're putting the sports and esports. That's twitch.tv/compete forever. And that's on YouTube and Facebook gaming as well. Make sure you tune in to next week's episode. And remember, if it makes sense, it's an OG2CENTS. OG out.
Put this work in, fellas. And much, much, much love to the entire 2K community for always showing me love. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. Yeah.